I have a special guest in the studio today, three-time Olympian and gold medalist Dominique Dawes. She is a healthy lifestyle advocate and owner and founder of the Dominique Dawes Gymnastic and Ninja Academy. Hi, Dominique. Welcome to the Hello, My Name is Dana podcast. I really appreciate you joining today.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You know, it's a great honor. It's a great honor to meet you and interview you. I'm not a gymnast, but every time the Olympics and especially the Summer Olympics come around, I kind of, follow all the events, gymnastics and everything. So I want to start right with my first question. How did you get started in gymnastics?
I started the sport of gymnastics when I was 6 years old, and it was very much my mother's doing. And it wasn't as if she had this athletic background or she loved the sport of gymnastics. There was a mall on one side of the street that she loved to shop at. And on the other side, there was actually a gymnastics gym. And the story is, and I wasn't privy to it at the time because I was so young. The story is that she signed me and my older sister, Danielle, up for tumbling classes somewhere else, somewhere closer to our home. And for whatever reason, I think due to low enrollment, the class was canceled. And she said that I was devastated. And so then she found this gymnastics gym. And I remember when I first stepped into the gym at 6 years old, I immediately fell in love. I saw what the big kids were doing. And I was like, I'm going to do that someday.
Great. That's awesome. Yeah, that's I think my first introduction to gymnastics was in gym class, and I was like, that was brutal. I mean, I got a story about that balance beam thing that they made us walk across. It was like, I'm not the tallest person, so it was like, really? You want me on that to walk?
Yeah. If you're not the tallest, and it's like the perfect sport for you. And I remember in PE, they did introduce us to the sport of gymnastics, and I had already been doing it. Yeah. And instead of just walking across the beam, I flipped across it. And the coach was like, I don't know what I can do with this.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I guess I should be, maybe have been a gymnast since my height and everything, but it was like that balance that just, turned me off. And they said, okay, now we want everybody to walk across the balance beam. And I'm like, really, on that?
4 inches? No, thanks.
Yeah, it's not going to happen here. Do you remember your first international meet?
I do. I was, probably 10 years old or so, 10 or 11. And it was in Brisbane, Australia. And if you've ever been to Australia, it literally takes, a day plus to get there. And back then we were definitely flying coach. And it was actually a comfortable flight for someone that's like 4 foot nothing.
Right.
And it was an honor to represent my country. It was an international competition. I was there with a number of my other teammates, and you can even find the footage online. And the sad thing is, at the end of the meet, I fell on my best event, the floor exercise, and landed on my head. So it was a very eye-opening introduction to the international scene.
Yeah, I do have a question about the 2000 games. I was there too. I was actually working the games in Australia in 2000. And
nice. In Sydney.
Yeah, that was a fun trip. Really, it was a fun
that was my last international competition. When I was 23 years old. I was at the end of my career at my third Olympic Games. It was truly an honor to represent my team and my country. But there were some bittersweet moments going on there. I came back strictly for the fans because I knew they missed me in the sport. They had been writing me so much, like, please come back. And, it was my farewell to all of those people that made so much to me.
Yeah. I was, I got a question about that a little bit, a few more questions down, but that was my first time that I ever actually, I got there before the games, the two started, and, I had a chance to go to the different venues. Of course, I was at the track and field venue most, but, I did go to the gymnastics one. I think I was there during one of the opening rounds and stuff. And I was just amazed that was my first time ever actually seeing, a real in-person event, and I was like, yeah, you guys do there's a lot of training involved here. It's just not like, go run across the mat and hang on the rings and, see
what you can do. Yeah. The sport of gymnastics, it's unlike many other sports where the commitment is quite vast. And it's a large commitment for such a young person. As we spoke about earlier, I started when I was 6 years old. I was then 23 years old and pretty much sacrificed my whole childhood to get to the Olympic Games. And, while I will say in some regards it worked out for me in the competitive side, it's not something that I would, as a parent, desire for my 4 kids.
Yeah. It's a lot of commitment involved in that. I mean, training and commitment. Now, in 1992, US versus Japan, did my notes here, so a little research. You received a perfect 10, standing ovation for your floor routine. You did the back-to-back tumbling. And, I guess that really was revolutionized by, I'm going to mess up words here, so I apologize. There's some words I try to break them. Yeah, I tried to break them down a little bit so I could, but she was Okana from the Soviet Union. But I guess she was the one who did before the back-to-back, and I guess you did the same or something?
I would give actually the Romanian gymnast Daniela Silovash credit for that back-to-back. She would do a double twist and do a punch front out of it. And I believe at some point she did a punch front and then did a hurdle and continued to tumble. And my origination of the back-to-back really started from a small gym that I first started training at in Wheaton, Maryland, the gym that my mom dropped me off at 6 years old. And it was such a small gym that usually there's a white line around the floor exercise mat so that people would know where the out of bounds marker is. Well, this gym was so small, there was no white line. It was a white wall. And so you couldn't step out of bounds. You would fall into a very hard wall. And so my coach suggested, instead of stepping out of bounds, why don't you just do a punch front and keep tumbling? And that became a very iconic move for me throughout my career. Everyone in the sport of gymnastics, and then the Olympics in 1992, when they saw that, I think a lot of jaws dropped, because I took it up a few notches from what Daniela Silovash did. And so I think that's one of the most memorable moments that people think back about with regards to, my career. And so getting that 10-0, I remember that competition, and wired as the gymnast that I've always been wired to be, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And I remember knowing I had a couple of deductions, and I'm thinking, they've always deducted for me. Like, being an African-American in a predominantly white sport without the body type that they were desiring, I say today, I always felt as if I was just a walking deduction just because of who I was. And so it really shocked me that they decided that day not to deduct my bow legs or my flat feet or my body type or my hair. And I was honored, but it's a very subjective sport. And so some days they'll like you and most days they won't.
Yeah. I mean, those are another question I'm going to, especially with the, like Simone Biles and Gabby, I'm going to ask you a question about that. But right before that, I know that same year were the 92 Olympic trials.
Yes.
You placed 4th. And
in Baltimore, Maryland.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's right. I kind of remember that. And awarded a spot on the team.
Ish, Dana.
Well, I mean, come on, it that's an honor. I mean, the first go round, to go out.
Yeah, no, it was truly an honor. But I think now at 45 years old, I'm a wife, I'm a mother of 4 kids, I'm very transparent. And I take myself back to when I was 15 years old at those Olympic trials, Baltimore, Maryland, hometown crowd, which adds that hometown pressure. And I was 4th place following those Olympic trials. You would think, because they say they're going to take the top 8 to the Olympics, you would be a shoo-in and confident that you were going to be selected on that team. But no, in the sport of gymnastics, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's a selection committee. And even after those Olympic trials, I was not 100% certain. And even my coach made it clear to me that it's not the end of the road yet. You have not been granted that spot. And it wasn't until we went and did a camp behind the scenes with no fans, no judges watching, and this selection committee of primarily the Carolis got together and determined who was going to be selected for that team. And I remember getting a knock on my door. I believe it was in the morning time. And my coach had let me know that I had been, or evening, I think it was the evening. My coach had let me know that I had been selected for the Olympic team after this little camp went on. And I remember crying. And I vividly remember that those were not tears of joy, because it was so exhausting emotionally, mentally, physically. You sacrificed so much of your childhood. Yeah. And there wasn't this adulation of, yes, I did it. The joy, feeling as if I motivated, my race, my country. It was just a bittersweet moment. And I don't want to speak negatively about the sport of gymnastics, but it's very honest that you don't really know you're on the team until the day of the Olympics and you actually march out in that arena in Barcelona.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. Wow. I thought that, like with any other event, like social, like track and field, top three, maybe the fourth person is the alternate in case, somebody gets hurt or whatever, but I didn't know that. It's
a subjective sport, and there's many people behind the scenes that are pulling strings and justifying whatever it is that they want for the team. And so while I was the first African-American to compete at the Olympic trials in Baltimore, Maryland, I was not the only one that they selected for that team. And so it was, definitely bittersweet, and it's tough. And that's why now as a mom, I encourage my kids to do more objective sports, like soccer. That ball went in the hole. Now, of course, or in the net. I'm that bad. In the net. I know there's referees and such. And then with track and field, she got over the line first. Like back at the cameras, no one's going to deny that. And that's what I want for my kids, because I don't want to have to justify to them or try to explain to them why they maybe didn't get the score that they felt like they deserved, or why they maybe weren't selected for a particular team.
It's funny because I have a question that was coming up, but you kind of led into it. Like for gymnastics, when you were doing it to compare to now, I mean, it's a few years, but has it changed as far as like what you're saying, like just as far as getting on the team or competing or points or, just different, things change as the time goes on, but,
Dana, let's be real. It's been 30 years.
Okay, but let's just act like it was yesterday. It was yesterday, Dominique. It was yesterday.
We'll forget about these gray hairs.
Right. Yeah. I'm like right here. Okay.
I'm like combing it over.
Right.
No, but it's quite different. It's very different. Back in the day when I competed in the 80s and the 90s, there was something called compulsory routines that were required for elite level and Olympic training level gymnasts. And the compulsory routines were strictly made for those with a certain type of body. Mm-hmm. And it was not the Dominique Dawes, very athletic, muscular body type. But it was more so for someone that was balletic and classically trained and had these lines that were sketched in a booklet looking like Russian ballerinas. And I remember whenever I would work on my compulsory routines and I would look in the booklet that my coach would show me, I'm like, my body can't look like that. And so immediately when I would go out in the competition for compulsories, I was deducted from the get-go. The flat feet, the bow legs, the curve in my back or a slight butt or my hair, all of it was a deduction. And that's just the way the sport sadly was back then. The Russians were very dominant, so they had a lot of control over the artistry and maybe what was considered beautiful or perfection in the sport of gymnastics. Today, there's a new scoring system. Number one, there's not compulsories for the elite level athletes or the Olympic training athletes. So check for that. That's wonderful.
Right.
And then there's the optional competition, which I always did extremely well in. I would be in 22nd place after compulsories, first place after optionals, and then you'd average it and somehow I'd be in like fourth place, So now there's only optionals. And so it allows the athletes to showcase their strengths and do what they're good at. And because of the new scoring system, they get credit for all the level of difficulty that they do and execute to a certain degree. And that's why we have the likes of Simone Biles being so dominant in the sport of gymnastics. Back in the day, I could do a routine that was worth a 10.2 or a 10.4, but you wouldn't take that risk because you were capped at a 10.0. Right. So why would you do more difficult skills when if you made a flaw or, had a bobble, you would get deducted for it, but yet you got no value for it. So today we have the likes of Simone Biles because number one, she's that amazing, but also because of the change in this new scoring system.
Yeah, I mean, I was, I'm trying not to think that 90 something was so long ago, but, I guess that's good for the sport, the changes, from whenever, you were doing it to now.
I think it's great for the sport because it allows athletes to showcase their strengths and not be pigeonholed to have a certain look in one aspect of the competition compulsory. And yet that if that's not who they are, their body type, they'll be deducted for that. And then they'll have to try to catch up in the optional competition, which is what my whole career was.
Okay. Yeah. So let me ask you this. So whenever you competed, the 96, 92, 2000, your first games, like you said, back in 92, what was it like walking out on the biggest stage in the world? And not just that, but, to know that, one, you're competing for your country and, what did you take from each game from 92 through 2000? Did you, the differences, what did you take from that?
I mean, I embraced the fact that I knew what I was doing was inspiring and empowering people. Back then, I would get fan mail letters. Like, people would sit down, have paper and pen, and write letters to me, and even put their photos in it or get photos of me and ask me to sign it. And I recognized the importance of what I was doing and that I could change someone else's life. And grandmothers and grandfathers and moms and aunts and, young girls and boys would write me. And so that's really what motivated me to endure what I was enduring for so many years. And so when I marched out at the 92 Olympic Games in Barcelona, I knew that there was going to be a young African-American girl or a young girl of color that was going to say, hey, I want to do what this young girl is doing.
Yeah.
And the fact that I could plant that seed and inspire a generation was truly, truly a blessing. And it does surprise me today how I'll get stopped by so many people. And they'll say, oh, I remember your Olympic Games. I was with my grandmother or my mother or my father, who's no longer here today. And you meant so much to them. And they were crying for you and praying for you. And so it's truly an honor to know that I was able to inspire so many people, and they love sharing those stories with me. But, I'm not going to lie to say, it was an enormous amount of pressure.
Yeah.
That's why when everything came out in 2021 in Tokyo and Simone Biles, took a pause and decided to put her mental health and physical health first, it really did reopen some of the experiences that I felt going into each and every one of those Olympic Games, especially the 1996 Olympic Games, and the weight that I felt on my shoulders, knowing that for this team to make history and being one of the leaders of the team, that I really needed to be on my A game. And it was overwhelming, but I have a strong faith. And I knelt down and I prayed with my team captain, Amanda Borden, who's amazing, very positive, very uplifting. And she helped remind me that I'm not doing this alone. She helped remind me, that my teammates had my back and that we're all in this together. And so it was a great experience, but the inspiration, the pressure, it's something that I will not feel like that ever again. I know that.
I mean, like I was gonna say, like one of the biggest stages in the world. Diane Patrice Durham, she would have been the first African-American gymnast to compete in the Olympics.
What do you know about her story?
I don't know. I don't know a lot about it, and that's a shame. I did a little bit of research. I didn't realize, like, whenever I wanted to, have you on as a guest, and I'm just, because there's so many African-American females that have competed in gymnastics. So something I was researching and I came across her name. Yep. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that. I did not know that. And then
I met her multiple times. And I remember, I believe, first meeting her before the 1996 Olympic Games. Did not know anything about that young woman's journey. And I remember she gave me this box, and trust me, I'm a hoarder. Like, I love keeping everything.
Right.
Everything is sentimental to me, but my husband is like a monk. So that he throws things out when I'm not around. And honestly, I'm going to blame it on him. They threw out these cards, but I got these cards from her that she gave me, handwritten notes for each day of the Olympics when I was in Atlanta, Georgia, of words of inspiration and positivity. And I remember being so inspired and empowered by it, but I didn't know very much about her story. And it wasn't until I became a little older in life, I don't remember who shared with me her story, but they had explained to me that she was the top female gymnast in 1984. Top, over Mary Lou Retton even. Yeah. And she had trained under the Carolis with Mary Lou and a number of other talented athletes. And I believe it was at the Olympic trials or just prior to the nationals that she got injured, and she was told, don't worry, don't finish competing. Pretty much you'll be selected, because there's that selection committee process that I told you about from my 1992 Olympic Games. Yeah. And so if you don't compete, you maybe don't worry, because they know how talented you are. You just got a little injured, and then we'll put you on the team. Well, as you know, the story, she was not selected for
Mm-mm.
that team.
Right.
And so that's the story that I heard later in life, much later, like late 90s in life. Like I didn't know about this when I met her in 1996. But I do remember at the 1996 Olympic trials in Boston, my teammates, Dominique Moceanu and Shannon Miller, were sitting in the stands during the Olympic trials because they were injured. Now, if you know anything about the sport of gymnastics, we're all in pain.
Yeah, right.
Top athletes,
Yeah, I see.
yeah, top athletes, you're always in pain, you know.
Right.
So they were injured, they were in pain, and they decided not to compete because they knew that they would be selected for the Olympics. There was just that confidence to know. One was a Caroli athlete, so we knew that one would be selected.
Right.
And I remember communicating with my coach about, gosh, my tendonitis is flared up. I really can't compete. I'm in so much pain. She made it very clear to me, there's no guarantee they're going to select you.
Oh.
Right. While I was a former Olympian in 1992, and I had won the national championships in 1994, I was injured in 95, still coming back, but doing well in 96. It was made very clear to me that there would be no guarantee. But then I remember looking over in the stands at my two future Olympic teammates and knowing, wow, they feel some sense of confidence. So that's the Diane Durham story of what was told to me, and that she was not selected and pretty devastated from that experience. And as you may know, she passed away last year.
Yeah,
and in 2019, when I made the announcement that I was opening my first gymnastics gym, the Dominique Dawes Gymnastics and Ninja Academy, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a question I'm going to ask you about.
In Clarksburg, Maryland, the motivation behind it was to open an academy of the sport of gymnastics and ninja, but changing the culture and making it a positive and encouraging and uplifting and empowering culture. Who reached out to me via Facebook? Diane Durham. And she pretty much was just saying, thank you for what you're doing. This is very much needed in our sport, because she knows better than anyone that the culture in the sport is not one in which it will embrace everyone the same.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I did not know anything about her, and it's a shame. And, you know, to think the history of, you know, African-American females in gymnastics, I haven't seen any documentaries on anything like that. I think that's something that, you know, should be, you know.
My husband always says, he's like, why are there no producers reaching out to do a documentary on you, Gabby, and Simone? I guess just the biggest names.
Right.
Because there is such a rich history there, but it also does open up a bit of a can of worms, because there are the stories of Diane Durham that a lot of people are not aware of, you know, in the sport.
And who knows if there was somebody before her?
Exactly.
We don't know. We don't know. And that was, you know, my question leading out of talking about her is, you know, you've inspired so many African-American female gymnasts like Gabby and Simone. Who inspired you? I mean, did you know about Diane before that, or who inspired you, you know, as far as?
I mean, I would say I loved watching Daniela Silva. She was in the 1988 Olympic Games for Romania. I liked her uniqueness. She had like a little curly fro, which was not embraced in the sport. And, you know, she had a muscular physique, and she was the one that did the up and back tumbling pass. I loved her spunkiness. But there was no one in the sport of gymnastics that I thought, hey, I want to be like them, because I looked at myself and I saw how different I was and how I felt like I was treated so differently, that there wasn't this role model in the 80s, the mid to late 80s and early 90s, that I really saw as an inspiration. And so, you know, there wasn't someone that, you know, I really looked up to. But I remember watching Mary Lou Retton win, and I remember getting the Mary Lou Retton leotard and feeling as if I was like this superhero, you know, after her accomplishment at the LA Games.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. You know, it's kind of sad that, you know, you want to have somebody who I don't want to know if the word represents yourself, but, you know, somebody like you to, you know, inspire you to get into a sport. Oh, you know, she's there. And, you know, when you don't really have somebody like yourself, you know, it's kind of hard. Now, you know, you've won so many honors and awards. I know that you were inducted into the International Gymnastics Hall of Fame in 2009. and also, you know, I know the list goes on and on. I'm just trying to get my questions here together. But, you know, what does that mean to you to be, you know, your abilities as an athlete to have these honors and to, you know, to share, you know?
I mean, I'm very appreciative. I'm very appreciative of being in the USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame, in the International Gymnastics Hall of Fame, in the US Olympic Hall of Fame, a part of my 1996 Olympic teammates, even being awarded recently by the University of Maryland of College Park, my alma mater, being a part of their Hall of Fame inductee. It's an honor, but I don't live life for accolades. I don't live life waiting for man or woman to recognize my achievements or my impact, because I do recognize that you don't have control over what people think of you or what they say about you, or if they think you're worthy. And so while I'm very appreciative of these honors, and these days I take my whole family usually to the event, because then it's like a ruckus, you know, going on, like all of us. It's a lot of fun, but it makes it more fulfilling when I can share it with my family, when I can share it with my 4 kids and my husband. But at the end of the day, what I do instill and want to instill further in my kids is, do not seek man's approval. Do not seek outside approval. Listen to your heart, listen to your conscience, be led by him, and you will be happy and you will be fulfilled and you will inspire others. But don't wait for, or don't feel this need to have accolades from the outside world.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I you know, leading out of that question, I know in 2010, President Obama appointed you to be a co-chair of the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition. Wow. I mean, that's kind of, you know, that's awesome. That's awesome. Are you, you know, tell us about that appointment. Are you still on that?
Well, everyone remembers Arnold Schwarzenegger. Remember, he was like the big name back in the day. I think it was under the Bush administration. And he was the head of the President's Council. And so when I got that call that came in from the White House, if you've ever gotten a call from the White House, it comes up 202, or at least it did back then. I don't know how it is. I don't get calls. 202. And I'm like, this is bizarre. I got the phone. And I was told that the president wanted to have me involved in the council as a co-chair or possibly executive director. And the co-chair position definitely sounded like it would be a great fit for me. But as with anything in life, I never say yes right away. I have to dissect it and make sure that if I'm going to be committed to something, I am wholly committed to it. And I love the fact that it was about educating and empowering communities and families and kids on living this healthy lifestyle. And one of my first engagements with them was with the First Lady, Michelle Obama. And if you've gotten to know her, she is so down to earth, so real, so warm, so friendly. And any of the engagements that I did with them, it wasn't about dressing up and being prim and proper and wearing heels. We were kicking off our heels, jumping rope with the kids, running it with the kids, dancing with the kids. Like, I'd never had so much fun in events other than the ones with the President's Council, because it really was about us being positive role models and not just preaching, but really being an example and teaching. And so I hope during that term of, you know, the 6-year commitment that I had made, that we were able to change lives in a positive direction, because we do have a health crisis in our country. I don't know why there's not enough of a emphasis today, even more so, on the need for the importance of healthy nutrition, of physical activity, and how it really does correlate to a healthy physical body, but then also a healthy emotional and mental health. And, you know, I think that's something that needs to be a part of our daily existence. Just like we wake up and we brush our teeth, and the hygiene aspect is so important, all of these other aspects need to be a priority as well. Because if you really don't have your health, you know, it's a struggle each and every day. It's a struggle each and every day.
It's definitely a struggle. You know, I'm going to get a little bit away from those type of questions, but you have a gymnastics academy.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about that? I know it's the Dominique Dawes Gymnastics Academy and Ninja, and I'm a little bit confused on the ninja part, because when I think of ninja, I'm thinking of either, you know, right, exactly, just something in Japan, like, you know, with a sword and, you know, the whole gear on, or climb the wall. And but
I need to make sure I'm educating people better on it, but it's very much like American Ninja Warrior. If you ever watch the show, the obstacle runs, that these amazing athletes, and they're athletes because I look like I'm fit and I will not get on that equipment because I know I would embarrass myself. But it's gymnastics because I truly believe the sport of gymnastics is one of the greatest sports out there to help build a strong foundation. We do not have a competitive team right now. The focus is really on building those fundamentals for life or for whatever sport your child wants to pursue. So if you want your child to become more flexible, stronger, more coordinated, better balance, better posture, the sport of gymnastics is such a valuable sport. My husband and I will watch an NBA game. A guy will reach for a ball, slip and fall into a split nearly and almost rip his hamstring out.
Yeah.
But if he had a background in gymnastics, we would just drop down and jump right back up. Or ninja rolls, or just being able to have better body control and core control is so important. Now, ninja, it's very similar to the sport of gymnastics. While they're not going to work on flexibility nearly as much, they are working on speed and agility. The upper body strength in that gym is unreal when you're swinging on rings or lashaying from bar to bar. Kids are, I'm impressed with not only the physical transformation that I've seen in these young kids' bodies. I've seen kids start in our facility 3 or 4 months later, they have a new physique. But more importantly, I love the emotional development, the confidence, and the socialization aspect that many kids lack during COVID. And so whenever I'm at the gym, and I'm not there all the time, I'm not a coach. People are like, why are you not coaching? I'm like, trust me, you don't need to be a coach. Right? But I've got an amazing team of people. They first and foremost love working with every single kid that comes through our doors. It's not about developing the next Dominique Dawes, or it's not about getting someone on top of the Olympic podium, but more importantly, making sure that each and every kid is happy and healthy in life. And my team members, they are amazing. They touch my heart each and every day because they truly do love what they're doing.
That's awesome. I mean, but how did you
know that why ninja?
Yeah. Why ninja? No, how did
mainly men's gymnastics. I mean, I will say this: men's gymnastics is not the most. Many people are not like, oh, I want to put my boy in men's gymnastics for whatever reason. Yeah. And it's a great sport for every young boy. Yeah. But I saw that sport was not growing at the time, and I thought, you know what? I love ninja. And I love the culture of ninja. They are so supportive. While it's an individual sport, like one person on that apparatus doing the obstacle, they are cheering for one another. And I felt as if the sport of gymnastics can really learn from their very fun and upbeat culture.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, it brings more, men into the sport of gymnastics when they, it's not the typical, it's all for girls and it has other aspects of it. We're going to slide a little bit away from that, but you were in the Missy Elliott I love Missy Elliott. I just want to throw it out there. And,
where's she from?
I don't know. I should know, but I don't know. I don't. Yeah. Okay. I gotta research that one. But tell me what that was like. I mean, that was your first acting? I know you were on a Sesame Street skit with
some character.
One of the characters.
We actually have the DVD, oddly enough, in our car, and it's called, one of the ones I did, I've done it twice, Count on Sports. And my kids are in the back whenever they're like, and up next is Dominique Dawes. And my kids start giggling in the back of the car. And I guess I flip it forward and backwards and up and down, talking about physical fitness. Like, I've always associated with things that I feel as if enrich people's lives. And so that one with Sesame Street was about movement and making sure kids were not living a sedentary life, but up and active. Yeah. With regards to the music video with Missy, actually my first one was with Prince. Oh, and I love myself some Prince.
Right. Oh, you don't even want to, that will be another interview with.
Yes, that's why I was like, why did you bring up the Prince one? I mean, I love Missy too.
Yeah, Prince. I mean, oh my gosh. I
know. Touching. Yeah. And that was right after the 96 Olympic Games. I went to Paisley Park and performed in this video, and just a true honor because he was an icon and will always be. But Missy Elliott, her team reached out. It was We Run This, very uplifting song that I love working out to. And it was a part of a gymnastics movie, I think, called Stick It. Yes. And when I got out there, she thought I was going to get Malia's part and start flipping. And I was like, ain't happening. Like I think they just assumed once a gymnast, always a gymnast. I was like, no, I'm going to play a coach. And so I was on the sidelines coaching, and it was really cool. Missy Elliott. So they put Missy's head on the gymnast's body, which wasn't mine, thank goodness, because mine would not have looked good. And it was a lot of fun. She was so down to earth, so real, and so talented. And so, these amazing talents and artists that I've had an opportunity to work with throughout my career has been, very eye-opening and a blessing.
Yeah, I think that was awesome. That was like, when I saw that, I was like, I love Missy Elliott. So when I saw that, I was like, yep, got to ask you that question about her.
And multi-talented.
Yeah. Amazing. Her and Mary J. Blige, two of my top.
I met Mary J. when I was in New York. Oh my gosh. I lived in New York for a minute and got an opportunity to meet some, pretty big time celebrities. I always looked up to.
Yeah, she's amazing. Now, I was on YouTube and I came across, I thought it was kind of cool. So it was, I'm going to read my little notes here, the gymnastics support with Dominique Dawes, where you answer questions from different, viewers. And I thought, as a non-gymnast, the question I found kind of like interesting is somebody asked you about, you were asked, what's at the bottom of a foam pit? And you said foam, and it's hysterical, it's hysterical, but it's like, those are questions. Do you get questions like, that should be, you should kind of know that, even if you really don't look at gymnasts,
Well, no, the thing is it changed because back in the day, I didn't train with the foam pit. I was not that blessed until later in my career, until I actually got to the Olympics. Back in the day, it was a thick amount of foam. Now it's a trampoline.
Oh, really? See, did not know.
And so it was actually a really good question. So the foam pit I have at my gym, when you jump in it, it like bounces back. So it gives you a little bit more give, which is different than people would think.
Okay. Yeah, I found that very interesting. Now we're, at the end of my conversation here, and two questions. One is there anything you would like our listeners to know, like on any of your upcoming projects, events, a little bit about your academy, how they could, reach out and if they're in their area where you are. Yeah.
I know. I wish I was national. I'm not. I'm just in the Maryland area right now. But I would say go to my website. It's Dominique Dawes Gymnasticsacademy.com. Okay. And if you wanted more information, you can get it right on that website. It's wonderful, positive, uplifting culture of classes. It's not highly competitive at all. It's mainly recreational gymnastics, but I always say it's not just rec. The kids are working hard, they're setting goals, and more importantly, like I mentioned earlier, it's about helping them develop into happy, healthy kids in life. Because, Dana, as I'm sure when you did some of the research, you heard about the black eye that the sport of gymnastics has experienced. And in 2016, when everything came out about Larry Nassar, the Olympic teen doctor, who I knew for 10 years of my childhood, it really helped me open up to my husband about the experiences that I had had. And I thought what I experienced was normal because many other gymnasts had gone through it. But when you are going through a level of abuse and you're living in a bubble and you share that abuse with everyone else, no one sees it as odd because many of the people around me went through the verbal, the physical, the mental, emotional abuses, and some, and, with my teammates, even the sexual abuse. And so they thought, and we thought it was normal. And it wasn't until I started sharing it outside of my bubble and my husband started realizing that explains the social anxiety, that explains the low self-esteem, that explains the isolation from the world that I went through for many, many years during my career and even following my career. And that's why he and I were motivated to start our first academy in Upper Montgomery County. Our second academy is opening in 2023 in Rockville, Maryland, still in Montgomery County, because I am a Montgomery County product. Right. And we want to give back to the community that has supported me for so many years. So we're going to focus on Maryland and then hopefully expand from there.
Nice. I mean, I think that what you're doing is awesome. My last question, two-part question, is there any particular quote you go by, and what is the best advice that you've been given?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I think there's a lot of quotes like scriptures that have touched me. I think the easiest one for me that comes to mind is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And it reminds me that even though I want to give up at times, I go through tough times all the time. Like opening a second academy is not easy. Like I was like, oh, not that the first was smooth sailing as I opened my first business during a global pandemic. Not maybe not advice, but you're going to learn a lot. But even your second one at the end of a pandemic has a great deal of challenges that you could have never foreseen. And so, just reminding myself that he's called me to do what I'm doing today, and that I'm not alone, and that, my job is to not give up and to continue to persevere and to continue at times to sit in the passenger seat and let him lead the way, because sometimes I don't know exactly where he wants me to be.
Right.
I do know he's going to ensure that the impact that I leave on those around me is going to be one that's the one he's called me to be, and that it is a part of his will. So I would say Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, because the world's not going to strengthen me. The accolades, things, money,
Exactly.
power, that's not going to strengthen me. That's not going to strengthen the majority of people. And that he will. You just have to step back sometimes and allow him to do just that.
So true. Exactly. Dominique, I want to thank you for being on the Hello, My Name is Dana podcast. Again, there's so many things I want to, talk about. I'll have to have you back on. We'll talk about Prince. We'll talk about whatever. But
I've got to get you at my academy. I got to get you on the ninja course. That's what I need.
You know what? You might get an email from me and I'll be like, Dominique, you need to come down to your gym, or somebody will call you and say, hey, you need to come down to your gym. Dana is like stuck on the ninja wall, or she's hanging there swinging and she's, whatever. But I'm definitely going to take you up on that, but don't, like I said, don't say anything if you do get a call and it's like, Dominique, we don't know who she is, but she said she talked to you and you said, yeah, she's something with the rings and on the balance beam and, but it's been awesome. It's been awesome. Thank you for being on, and, you're doing amazing things in the community, and, I definitely want to, hear what your future as far as your academy and other things.
I appreciate it, Dana. Well, thank you for the time and giving me the opportunity to not only share my story, but to share, everything that I'm doing now and the changes that we hope to make.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Dominique. I appreciate it. And
let me do a little selfie.
Like I said,
love it.
Well, that's it for this edition of Hello, My Name is Dana podcast. Please contact us at dlcarter7575@gmail.com and listen to more exciting interviews on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or visit www.hellomynameisdana.com.